Figured I might as well just start the recording because I've been known to forget and then there's no recording. It's all good.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah, it's like, well, you should have been on the call.
Yeah, right? Like, yeah, you should have been there. Like, come
Oh, you're
on.
gonna have to schedule one-on-one with me, which they never do. They don't want to deal with me one-on-one. So, okay, Jimmy, whenever you're ready, it's all yours.
All right. Well, good morning and afternoon to everybody. Thank you again for having me, Bob, as always. This is actually part two of the MoxiEngage series that we're doing. And today we're going to really spend some time focusing on not so much the setup, but actually using the system the way it's supposed to be actually done. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started and share away. I'll hit a couple of these slides quickly. Y'all can see my slides okay, right, Bob?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Jimmy McNally here with Century 21 Beggins down here in not so sunny Florida, at least where I'm at. I'm a real estate agent, sales manager, and technology manager. I help run a few offices along with help with technology across the entire state of Florida with all of our technology. You can also feel free to find me at batrealtor.com. Always got to do that intro. Look up Batman Real Estate, batrealtor.com. You will find this guy right here. And like I said, today we're going to be speaking around really walking through MoxiEngage, specifically around the sales flow and how to move your clients through there to stay top of mind and do a lot of really great things. Now, the agenda today is I'm going to walk through some basics like adding a contact, adding to groups, putting them in the sales flow. And the majority of time we'll actually be walking through the sales flow along with some campaign overview, because I know a lot of people were asking that. And honestly, when you look at how I move everybody through and some of the tasks that I have with my follow-up task, part of it is adding them to campaigns and to groups. So I'll quickly go over some of that stuff for you if time permits at the end, at least on the campaign side. Reminder again, Moxie websites migration to Amazon Web Services, what this means to you if you own a vanity domain like jimmymcnally.com or batrealtor.com, and you're using your Moxie website with that domain, you will need to adjust your DNS settings, which I'm sure Bob will throw in his video in the chat one more time, by January 31st before the Moxie servers actually turn off. So you want to make sure you get those set up and ready to go by next week at this point. It's coming really, really close. So if you have any questions, reach out to us and we can help you actually through that. So let's get into it and let's really dive and take a look at the sales flow and MoxiEngage and how you can stay top of mind and moving them through from every piece of the sales flow. In the last training, we spent a lot of time walking through how to update your system so you're set to have your calendar reminders, along with going through all of those specific tasks under each one of the sales flow. And I'm going to go ahead and go through the sales flow one more time before I actually walk you through adding somebody and going through the entire process. So the sales flow, again, is an all-in-one view of the transactions that you're working at any given time. Each zone, and this is from Moxie, each sales zone is a milestone for an individual client. Each zone includes specific tasks to help you stay top of mind and follow up and do specific transaction tasks as you're moving through the sales flow. I'm going to give you my take on what these four pieces of the sales flow are, and then I'll actually go through. As I'm going through, you'll see what Moxie says it is. Marketing is where a lot of your contacts are going to be, and these are the contacts that have not decided to actually do business right now with you. Okay, this could be your sphere of influence. This could be vendors. This could be anybody in your database, past clients like buyers and sellers, somebody who is not ready to work with you when it comes to doing a real estate activity like buying or selling. Okay, so you're still going to have some follow-up things you need to do with those, but obviously when we look at each one of these, the follow-up tasks are going to be a little bit different for each one to ensure you get to a successful closing. This whole sales flow is very cyclical, so as you move them through the sales flow and you finish a transaction, they will move back over to the marketing because you still want to do follow-up, you still want to do equity reviews, you still want to do all that with your sphere until they're ready to work with you, which is what a prospect is. This could be a new lead that reaches out on a listing for you. This could be someone who says, yes, Jimmy, I'm finally ready to sell my house. It's time. I'm having another baby and I need to get a bigger house. So they decided to do business with you, but they're not quite ready yet. Okay, that's why they're considered a prospect. So to me, this is somebody probably in the next probably 3 to 6 months that's probably going to do something with you. Okay, and so the way that we follow up with them is going to be different than someone we're just going to be following up a handful of times under the marketing side or monthly, right? So a new lead comes in or someone says, I want to buy, we put them in the prospects and we'll have tasks to complete until they're actually active. So for that buyer, it's they're pre-approved, they're ready to go. You're scheduling your showings. You're actually getting out there and doing the thing that you need to get them under contract. For the listing side, this is an actual active listing. Okay, so when your listing goes active, you're going to move them from your seller from prospecting to active, and then you go through the follow-up tasks and transaction tasks for each one of those. And then finally, you have pending. It's what it sounds like. You have a contract pending for your buyer, or your listing is under contract. So there's going to be some specific things that you need to do when you have your buyers and sellers under the pending standpoint. Some of the things that I really like about MoxiWorks, or specifically MoxiEngage with the transaction tasks and follow-up tasks on the pending side, is reminding you to schedule and giving you tasks specifically to schedule the time for some of that follow-up for these clients after they've closed. So following up in 3 months, following up in 6 months, following up in a year, and actually putting it on your schedule. You know you should call every one of your past clients on their anniversary, especially if they're buying a brand new home. But these are some things that you can put into your follow-up tasks, which again, we went over last week, and I will share a couple PDFs today that will kind of give you the link, a nice PDF to walk you through some basic tasks and follow-up for how this actually works here. All right. So as we continue to move through, this is what it looks like under a task list, which I will show you in a moment. When you actually are in the specific card of the client. So when you click on them and you go to their profile, it will actually have some of the tasks depending on which part of the sales flow they are in. And then this is what it can look like on your dashboard if you have it set up to be to have your task list ready to go, and you log in every day and you'll see this is what I need to accomplish, and you can do what you need to do, follow up, handle those specific tasks, and then move on with your day and do some of those other income producing activities to get more people to put into your sales flow. So let's go ahead and just get into it. I'm going to go the long way. We're going to go through 21 online. Side note, did everybody see that C21 University had a little refresh and it just relaunched? If you haven't taken a look at that, the C21 University is completely revamped. It's really, really cool. I haven't got my hands over on all of it yet, but it's absolutely amazing from what I've seen so far. So make sure you jump on that. So to get into Moxie, what we're going to do is log into 21 Online, click on menu on the right-hand side and go to Productivity Hub. The Productivity Hub will be in alphabetical order. So all you have to do is find M. And you'll see that we have MoxiEngage, Moxie Impress, Moxie Present, and Moxie Talent. So we're going to go to MoxiEngage, and it's going to pull up your account page here. So this is where you can adjust your email signatures and things like that. Again, we're not doing that today. What I like to do is I recommend taking this link here and making this a favorite on your web browser. So that way you don't have to necessarily go through 21 Online and do those extra steps. And now all I have to do when I want to get into Moxie is come over here to Moxie, click on it, and it will actually pull me up. So we're in MoxiEngage now. And we are on my dashboard. And again, what I want to do is I want to walk you through adding somebody, putting them in groups, putting them on a campaign, kind of going through the whole process all the way from start to finish. Now, to do this, there are two things that I would recommend to have ready to go prior to doing some of the things I'm going to talk about today. One is going to be setting up your groups. Now, when I get into the people, my people in just a moment, I'll show you real quick how you can make your groups because I think it's important to designate where your clients are. And that way you can move them around and give direct messages to that specific group that you may have. Let's say buyers, sellers, buyers next year, waiting for the market to drop, whatever group you want to make. And the other thing I recommend to do is if you are going to have some campaigns that are going to be running for your database, I recommend to get them started and have them running, because what I'm going to show you today is an easy way to add people to campaigns as you're putting them in the system. And it will save you a ton of time, but the campaigns have to be running. Okay. If we have time, like I said today, I'll show you how you can start a campaign, but we're going to kind of run with it at this point. Now, the first thing I said I wanted to show you is the groups. I want to make sure that you edit or you have your group set up. So as you go kind of through this process with me, you're kind of see what I'll be talking about. So what I want to do is I want to click on people and then come down to my people. And this is going to be a list of your entire database. Can you see this okay, Bob, or do you need me to blow it up a little bit more? I meant to.
It's good.
Good. Okay.
There you go, right there.
One more.
Go to
Okay.
the-
So as we're on this people, my people page here, before you start, really adding people and moving them over into groups, I recommend again to let's go ahead and edit some groups and let's make them. So on this page, you're going to see this little button next to where it says message with Wave, which is called edit groups. We're going to click that. And then on the right hand side, you're going to have a list of any groups that you have already set up or that are in there. Or if you would like to create a group, you can do multiple groups at one time. You can come up here and click create new group. I'm just going to call this test buyer because I'm going to get rid of it later. And then I can also add, let's say, a test seller, because I'm going to walk you through a seller and a buyer real quick. So once you have created your new groups, all you have to do is come down here to the bottom right-hand side and click save. All right. So once that has been saved, now that's going to help on kind of the next steps that I'm going to do. And the reason I do this is when you look at my task list, one of the things that I have to do when I put somebody in as a prospect is it's going to be update their information. So update their email, phone number, address, birthdays, whatever information I have, along with adding them to campaigns, adding them to groups, and making sure I'm getting that person set up, ready to go. So let's go in and let's add somebody. There's two ways you can do this. One, I can come up here, go to my people, and when you come to this page, I can just click the black button up here that says add people. Or if you're on the home page or on a different page that's in here, all I have to do is hover over people and scroll down to add people. Now, if you're following along with me, my recommendation, if you have not done anything like this yet, is you should have a personal like email and personal account in here as a prospect. So you can receive the campaigns, the neighborhood news, anything that you're going to send out. You want it, honestly, you should know what it looks like on the consumer side. So I would highly recommend, if you need an account to play around with and test and figure out how this works, put your personal account in here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to do email. It's going to be the max that I'm going to do right now. And then as you keep scrolling down on here, a couple things on the contact card. First off, on this first section here, let's say you have a Mr. and Mrs. McNally or something like that, or you have a Jimmy McNally or like a Jimmy and Tasha McNally, or this is James McNally, and I want my label name to be Jimmy. What this will do is whatever this label name is, when I send out campaigns or e-blasts, or if when I start sending things from Moxie, it will actually put their label name in there. Okay. All right. As we scroll down, you have places where you can put multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses. It will tell you in the email address, the first one that you put in will be the kind of default that will go to all of them, or sorry, all your emails will go there. You can put addresses, multiple addresses if they own a few properties. You can add different types of instant messaging. If they have a website, any relationships, I think this is great because I can actually add a spouse. I can put their dogs. I can put whatever I want. I can put any specific date. So like a birthday, an anniversary. If you haven't done anything with your database and you're just adding them in here, this is a great opportunity to do a house anniversary and put that date in here so it populates on your calendar. And then you can even put some social media accounts. And at the very bottom, if it's somebody who you don't want to really market to as a collaborator or personal, I can click on those items there if I would like. Okay. So once you fill out your contact card, we're going to go ahead and hit done. There we go. And we're going to come to this page here. Okay. So we're going to say Jimbo. Okay. He is somebody who isn't ready to, let's start with buying a house. Okay. So this is going to be a buyer eventually, but right now he is not a buyer. Okay. But as you can see here, I have an option to make a client or a non-client. If I make them a client, it will put them in the sales flow. If I make them a non-client, they will not be in my sales flow and remind me to follow up and do the tasks that I need to with that person. Quick side note on this, please pay attention to how many people you are making clients each day. If you go in and you make 100 clients, 100 people in your database a client the same day, when your follow-up tasks start, you're going to have a lot of people to follow up. So this is something, if you have a database you haven't done this with yet, take some time. Do not move everybody at one time into the sales flow. Okay. But anything new going forward, you should hands down put them in there and start using this. Can you deactivate a client? Can you put, Jennifer, if you could put a little bit more explanation, like we don't want them to be in the sales flow anymore. If that's the case, I'll walk you through that too. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do here is I am going to make this person a client, but he's not a prospect yet. Remember, a prospect is someone who wants to work with you. This one does, but it's probably, when I was talking to Jimbo, he said we're probably like 8 to 10 months out. So I'm going to actually create a marketing plan with this person and move them into the sales flow and put none of those and create a plan. Okay. So as you can see here, when I'm underneath this contact card on the top here, you have marketing, you'll have prospects right here, active and pending. And right now, Jimbo is in marketing. Okay. And you're going to see where the follow-up starts down here and what I need to do to follow up with this person. Now, since they're in marketing, this is completely fine. This is fantastic. This is where I want to be right now. And this will give me the tasks that I need to for this person. The next step that I want to do is on the left-hand side is I'm going to scroll down. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click subscriptions. Okay. And in this case, I'm going to definitely set them up for listing announcements. This is very important because as we go through this process, we're able to send just listed for sellers and just sold when we close on a property. And if we do not have our database set up for this, then it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and add Jimbo to both just listed and just sold and hit done. Now you can do this in bulk. We're not focusing on bulk. We're focusing on walking through this process here. Okay. The other thing that I could do if I wanted to is I could click add and I could add neighborhood news. I may not because I don't know what he's looking at doing. So at this point, I'm not going to set him up for neighborhood news right now. So I'm going to cancel that. I am going to set him up when I turn him into a seller or figure out the area he's going to work with. Next, I'm going to do on the left-hand side as I scroll down, I'm going to look for where it says groups. Correct. If you do not have an email, they won't get any of this stuff. So, and it will actually tell you in bulk if the amount of people that aren't getting it that don't have emails. It's a whole nother class to go through that. Next step though, is I want to go to the groups and I want to go ahead and add this person to a group. Now he said he wanted to buy, right? So I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to find my test buyer and I'm going to add this. I'm going to add Jimbo to the test buyer group. Okay. Cool thing with this is you can add Jimbo to as many groups as you want. Okay. So it doesn't hurt anything. It just kind of separates them a little bit based on what they're doing. This case, I'm going to make him a buyer because that's what he said he wants. That's what we're looking at doing. All right. So as you see that here, that's pretty much all I'm going to do at this point from this page. Okay. So from here, I'm going to go back to people and I'm going to go to the My People screen because this to me is the last step when I get a new client and I put him in here is I want to add Jimbo. I want to add him to a campaign. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Now, also on this page, when you look at sort by, I like having these either recently added or recently modified because these will be the first ones that pop up in my database when I come to this page to make it a little bit easier. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little button right here, the little square next to it. I can select as many as I want, but in this case, it's just one person. I'm going to head up here to where it says add to, I'm going to click on that and I'm going to click on campaigns. Now I already have my holiday campaign right here running. That's what I'm going to add this person to. And remember when I said you have to have the campaign running if you want to do this step right here. If you want to go to campaigns and individually add one person at a time, you can do it. I'll show you that at the end today. But these are all the campaigns that I already have running. So I can easily add him to this and not have to worry about going through all those steps in the campaign. So let's stop there with adding someone, getting them in a group, putting them on a campaign, setting them up for listing alerts and just sold alerts. Anybody have any questions on that standpoint that I did not already answer? Jennifer, I will get to your canceling in just a second, okay?
All good at the moment.
So as we're moving forward, now you can see here, these are the different tasks that we have set up for. This is my task list for my marketing campaigns for this person. But let's say Jimbo calls me and says, I'm ready to go. My wife finally gets, she's over this. We need a bigger house. Let's get moving. Right now we're renting. Okay. Right now we're renting. My lease is up in like 3 months. We need to start looking. So in this case, there's two ways I can do this. I can go through, if I'm doing these tasks, I can check them off and complete them. And once I get all the way to the bottom, it's going to say, hey, would you like to move this person into a prospect? So in this case, since I know that it could be a past client, in this case, Jimbo, is going to be a buyer prospect, I'm going to just go ahead and click this button that says make this person a prospect. So I'm moving them to the next step. Remember, first step was, I'm going to come back here again. Remember, first step was marketing. Second step is prospecting. Now you could have clients that can fall into any of this, okay? At any point, they can be moving around, but we're just going through this sales flow. So they're marketing, and now close these other ones out. We are going to make them, first step is a buyer, okay? Now this is what I like. We don't know what he's looking for yet, right? We don't have any specific properties. So you can fill out as much or as little of this information as you want. My recommendation at least is to come in here. I'm going to choose non-MLS. And then I am going to put a price range because he said he knows he's going to be between 400 and 600. At least that's what he thinks, okay? We can look at percentage of what the commission typically is in the area. I'm going to say 3%. You could do a flat and say it's something different. You could change. You can't change. This is automatically default at 3. The reason I put it in here as a prospect, even though we're not active yet, is this gives me an idea if I look at my database, how much money my database is worth. I chose non-MLS because Jimbo, there's no specific transaction yet. I still need to get him approved. There's still some steps that we need to do, but I'm going to put him in prospecting so I can start my follow-up task list. But I also, for my business, I want to know how much my prospects are worth. So if I go in here and say that he's looking at spending 500 or whatever it is, I can literally go to my goals and look at pending and I can see what my book of business is actually worth. And unfortunately, we're not at the point where there's a specific MLS tied to this right now. Okay. Okay, next up, as we go down, if I wanted to add, let's say Jimbo's wife is in here, and I wanted to add another person to this specific follow-up task and tie them to this transaction, I can start searching for the person here, and I can add them to they will also be in a prospecting zone, and this transaction will be tied together. So when we get through everything and we get to the closing, they're all going to be tied together. Another cool option, this is just something that we do here. If you use .loop, I know there's other programs you can connect to this. We use .loop. This is all that I know how to sync up right now. I can go in now and I can create a loop for Jimbo, a buyer loop that's going to have my EBBA, everything that I need on the buyer side to kind of get started. And then I can write some notes in here what's going on. Now, when I click done, since I am tying .loop to this is, if anybody, like I said, if you've used .loop, this will make sense. If not, I can actually choose the template that we have set up for our contracts. And now when I go to .loop, it's going to actually be there. How to add dot loop, I can go, if I don't know if I have time to go over that, Jill. There is a way that you can actually sync that together in the back end. Okay, so now Jimbo is actually a prospect. We are going to follow my campaign. So this one is telling me to sign him up for the holiday campaign, update his client information, schedule, do all these tasks. Again, we went over this last week. Jennifer Birdsong, this is for you. Let's say, oh, never mind. They changed their mind. We are no longer going to be looking for a house. Or this could be perfect if you have someone's an active and the contract cancels. If I click the little arrow here where it says move to active zone, I can click this and I can delete or deactivate the transaction. This transaction in MoxiWorks. If I delete it, it'll be gone all the way. If I deactivate it, it has the capability I can go back into it later and start playing around with it. But let's say I accidentally did it and I want it gone. I hit delete and watch where it brings Jimmy right back to the marketing plan. So he's still in there, but he's just not active anymore. So let's do this again. I'm going to make him a buyer. I'm going to do non-MLS so I can put this range. I'm going to have way too many loops for Jimbo in a second. You know what? I'm not going to create a loop this time. All right, awesome. So let's say we're out there. So deleting does not delete. No, deleting does not take them out. It just deletes them from where they're at in that sales flow that we were talking about, Jennifer. So now that we've sat down, we've sent some properties, they've got pre-approved, all the way down to one of the last things on mine is to actually get an EBBA signed. And all of a sudden now Jimbo's ready to go look at houses. Again, I am going to go ahead and move them to active. Okay, so now we jump into the active side and it's going to give me my follow-up task that I need to do for this person as they're in the active spot, all the way down to signing and getting them into a contract. And let's say Jimbo found the one. We went out this weekend and Jimbo found the one. I need to pull up MLS real quick. I apologize. I just need to grab an MLS number real quick. So what I'm going to do now is Jimbo is now pending. He's going to be closing. It's going to be a quick closing. He's going to close on Valentine's Day. Okay. Give me just 1 second. I meant to have that up. Just grab one of my listings. Let's just. All right, we're going to grab this one. Okay, now from this page here, I'm going to go ahead and click on details. Now, if you look at the tasks also, you're going to see this is getting the contract submitted, getting a critical date timeline out, scheduling inspections. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and click details. And I'm going to edit. Because remember what we put in on the first one? We had non-MLS. So now since I have a property, I'm going to go ahead and put that property in. And as you can see, it pulls up, it syncs with MLS. Now I can pull the specific one that we're under contract into this. And then let's say it's not 3%. I would do a flat free, let's say it's 2.5. I would do whatever that dollar amount is and hit done. So now I have this MLS number tied to this person. We go through everything. We do all the tasks. The thing I want to talk about again on these tasks, which I think is really important, is before you close everything out, is to schedule all of your follow-ups for this client. It's going to remind you to do it. And before we close it out, the next step that I'm going to do is I know that I'm going to submit the contract, get the contract everywhere it needs to be, create my critical dates. And from those critical dates, I'm going to probably make some adjustments here based on when all this stuff is happening. So if we're closing on the 14th, schedule closing, you could see that my default template is set 30 days out. So if I'm going to schedule closing, I am going to need to actually edit some of these things. I'm even going to add it to the calendar to remind me. So I'm going to go and adjust these due dates based on what's happening in my contract, because every contract is different. Every closing time is pretty different. If there's a loan involved, if there's not a loan involved. So there's a lot of different things in each contract. And I recommend at this point just to adjust this. So that way, when I come in every day, it's gonna be in line with what I need to do. Because one of the tasks you're gonna see at the end, once you've scheduled all this stuff, is to remind you to post your just sold, solicit this, update the feedback, and close it out basically. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close. Well, I don't think it's going to let me close it because, okay, yes, let's do this again. So let's say, for instance, it's closing day. We just closed. Again, you decide how quickly you're going to do this. Let's say it's the day after. I'm going to click close transaction, and this is just in the sales flow. Okay, so this is the end. We need to move them from pending, put them back in marketing. This is going to notice, you're going to notice this box pop up. This is saying, do you want to send a just sold to your subscribers without doing anything? All I have to do is click yes, and this will blast out everybody in my database that I have signed up for just listed and just sold e-blasts. So would you like to do this? No, I do not. Would you like to close this transaction before all my tasks are completed? So this is basically, if I have some things that I want to do after the closing, I would not close this thing out. And if I do this, when I hit continue, actually, I think it's going to put them back over in marketing, and it's going to tie that closing date specifically to them here. All right. So now you could see underneath this person, first off, here's the transaction. Here's everything that closed. Now I'm going to delete this because I did not close this property. This has nothing to do with MLS. Okay. Well, hold on. Before I do that, you can come down to the profile. And remember, towards the end, it says update their information. I would come in here. All right. I would add their address, their new address here. I would also add their anniversary date. Okay. I would do all of that. And then you can also see on the left-hand side that now Jimbo's back in the marketing phase. And then the last step that I'm going to do here with somebody who has closed, okay, is I'm going to go, well, while I'm on this page, excuse me, I'm going to go to subscriptions. I'm going to add neighborhood news for a monthly, and I'm just going to do a quick one based on their zip code. So now they will start getting monthly emails from me, letting them know what's happening in the market with their property. And then the last step I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to people and my people. And since we just purchased a house, I'm going to select this person, click add to, go to my campaigns again. You can see I have a zillion of them. And add them to the house anniversary one. Because the house anniversary campaign starts on day 0. So that means if I put them on the house anniversary campaign the day of closing or like the day after, every 365 days, they are going to get an email saying, hey, it's been another year. And it's about 5 years worth of emails that are going to go out to this specific person. Okay, so that's how you move a buyer through the whole transaction. Now, what I'm going to do real quick is I am going to remove this real quick. So to remove a transaction, you pull them up and come down here and you can see it says buyer and it says money. It has money on it. That means it's been closed. I'm actually just going to delete this. Got it. All right, we're back in the marketing plan. So let's check on some questions real quick. If you're working, okay. Let's start with Tracy. If you're working with a potential seller, do you move them to the prospect or leave them in marketing? If it's a prospective seller, depends on how close that they actually are. Are you sending pricing? Are you going by the house? Are you scheduling like walkthroughs and pre-listing stuff? If you're kind of to that point, even though it could be 3 or 4 months out, it all depends on how your task list is set up. My seller prospect task list actually does follow up for about 6 months. So if I don't get a signed agreement, I'm still following up with them as a potential seller. So that would be for you. So if you forget to close it out and try to add them to the house anniversary a month later, there's no way to backdate that. No, Donna, you cannot. What I would recommend to do, and I would just make this kind of habit, is we want to make sure that their anniversary, make sure the house anniversary is at least in here. So, okay. So I'm going to go to my profile page again, and you can see the house anniversary. This is what I put before. So let's go to the 14th. So let's say this was my house anniversary. Okay. If you have your settings turned on, in the back end to add special dates to your calendar, this will actually populate on your calendar. And then my recommendation for you is just make sure you're looking at your calendar daily. I know most of us do. Reach out to them to say what it is, but make sure you go in and just ensure that they are on the house anniversary campaign. And if they're not, add them on that day. But it cannot be backdated. Thank you for that, Bob. I appreciate it. Okay. So now Jimbo calls me because I need to sell my house. So it's the same idea, okay? We're doing the same thing. We're doing the same steps going through the listing side. We're going to make this person a seller. Now, you may already have that MLS number from before. Okay, so I can pull that in. I can create a loop like I normally do. I'm not going to do that. I can add the person that I want to this. All right, so now, boom. Now we have a prospect for a seller. A little bit different on the task list that you have coming up here. So following up, scheduling your pre-listing appointment, creating your listing packet, creating your presentations, all that kind of stuff, however you like to follow up until you get that listing agreement signed. And once you get that listing agreement signed, or you're active, again, depending on how you have your task set up, now all of a sudden we are going to move Jimbo to an active seller. Again, some of the same things that you have here, but let's say we talk about scheduling, photography, sending out just listed, and all this kind of stuff. And you can see that I have all of this here. And I can delete or deactivate whatever I would like to on this point. And you can see here, one of my things to do is I'm definitely not sending this, but this is how I can notify everybody that I subscribed in my database, where I showed you kind of at the beginning how to send an email announcement for your just listed. I click that, send it, and it will go to everybody that I know. Okay, so let's say, for instance, now my property is under contract. Again, it's the same stuff that I walked through with you before. Okay, same steps on this point here. Victor asked, can I have multiple profiles for the same person? For example, investors who buy and sell multiple homes on a cycle. You can have different ones if you would like. If you have different emails, like Bob threw in there. The main thing is what I would do is, when you have them as prospecting or as marketing, is just the follow-up piece until they get to the point where they're ready to buy or sell. On somebody who has multiple things that are going on, I'd put them in different groups so you can send different, very curated messages to each one for selling and buying. But then once you get them under contract, you can do that and add that transaction for them. All right, I am going to go ahead and delete this one. I'm not going to go through again showing that but it's the same steps. I'm going to go through, I'm going to close it. It's going to ask if I want to send a just sold. I'm going to delete this completely. Once I get finished with that, I'm going to do the same steps I did with the buyer. I'm going to update the profile card to make sure it's set up the way that it needs to. Now, I'm not going to set neighborhood news for this person if they sold, depending on where they're buying. If they are buying somewhere else, depending on what they're doing, I may do that. But for a seller, I'm not going to just automatically put them on a neighborhood news to let them know, kind of what's going on. All right. Any questions on that? We walk through buyer and seller through the entire transaction. Let's see if we have any questions. I still got about 21 minutes, so I'll walk you through some campaign stuff in just a moment. I will show you a couple things in a profile card too, why we are in here. But any questions on moving somebody through the sales flow? And remember, there's 4 pieces to the sales flow. And as an agent, if you're looking at this, if I look at pending, how many you have pending is basically your paycheck in the next 0 to 45 days. Your actives are probably going to be 0 to 3 months. Your prospects are going to be 3 to 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter. Again, everybody's in a different lifespan, and your marketing is someone who hasn't decided to do anything, could be a year or 2 out, right? So if you want to know what your book of business looks like and you have nothing pending right now, well, we know you're not getting a paycheck in the next 45 days. But if you have your actives, if you have 25 actives in here, that's where I would be spending a ton of my time to ensure that I'm either getting out there showing houses or doing everything I need to get the property, the property sold. All right, so I don't see any other questions. Let me show you a couple other things that are on this profile card. Another thing that you can do, which is in my task list, and I just forgot to do it, so I'm sorry about that. You have something called faves and saves. So this is like your MLS search. Okay, put somebody in the search. Now this one, because I had that email twice, is not letting me do that, so I have to go back to the other one here. Okay. So to set up a search, I'm going to scroll down to where it says faves and saves and then click create a search. And from here, again, this is all fed from MLS, so it shouldn't be that far off. Now, I will tell you, if you get very specific, you have very specific needs, you still might want to go into MLS. I always tell people to start here to see what you can actually really dig into and figure out. I don't have an answer for which one's better. I like keeping people on my website because I have more than just searching for a property. I have a lot of different items on my website that can bring value to a potential buyer or seller. When doing a search, this is very similar if you're using Moxie Present. Let's say I want to, let's say I want to search for an entire county. Let's say I want to do Hillsborough County. I need at least 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. As you see the blue line kind of coming across, that's MLS, just searching for everything there. I can look for price. Remember, I said we were going to be between 400 and 600. Then I can also come over here to filters and I can start choosing things like I'm going to unselect all of these. I just want a single family residence. I'm going to exclude my pending list. It's just like any search that you would do. And I want something with a pool. Boom. All right, I got 119 options. If I want to send that, I click email settings. I can change the name of the search. This is the message that you can adjust in all the settings. And then I can also select frequency. So I can actually send out once per day. This will actually go when there's an update. It will send it out. It's not every single time, but it's once per day. This will go out. And I can even set it up. This is perfect for a seller, by the way. If you set a seller up for a search in their community and have it go out weekly, and then also send no new listings if there's nothing on the market. So no matter what, every week they're getting an email and it's going to say, hey, by the way, there aren't any new listings, or maybe there are. But either way, you're staying in front of your seller and your buyer at least weekly, if not hourly, if not once a day, whatever that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and save and send. And now I have set somebody up on a search. And that's faves and saves. No, you can only do one county. So you cannot do multiple counties. What you could do is you could edit, and this is where some of the systems are better than others. But if I know there's a specific area that I'm looking for, I can do like a multi-draw option where I can say I want to be here. And then if I want to do another one, so I could do multiple, I can freehand it, I can move it around. Or I could do even a radius. Oops, sorry, I'm going a little crazy with that. I think when you start getting into multiple things, you broaden it all in one if you want to keep them on your website with Moxie. And every, I think, state is a little different. Every MLS is different what it can actually send to you. So if you get a little too specific with it and it doesn't allow you to do it, just put them on an MLS search. But they need to be on a search, obviously, if they're buyers. So either use this or use the MLS or whatever you're using. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get into the campaigns real quick, okay? So campaigns at the top of the MoxiEngage page is going to be this option right here where it says campaigns. And then you're going to see 5 different options right here. You're going to see my campaigns. You're going to see e-blasts. And e-blast is the same thing as a campaign. It just goes out one time, okay? You have neighborhood news. If you set somebody up and you want to see who's looking at it, you want to see who's opening it, you can click on that. You can see what that looks like. This would be for your listing announcements, and these will all be your individual emails that come in with your campaigns. To start a campaign, the first thing you will need to do is click the blue box on the top right up here and click Add from Library. Okay, and this will give you all the campaigns that are available for you from Century 21. And if your brokerage is making them, you'll see as we go further down, you'll see brokerage campaigns that could be available for you if they make it a little bit more market specific and micro for your areas. We'll focus on the Century 21 campaigns that are available for you. So all you need to do, well, one of the campaigns you should hands down have on for everybody is the holiday campaign. So you can click add to campaigns for any of these. You can also click preview, and this will show you what everything's going to look like and when it's going out. So time frame. All right, if you look at the campaigns, there's a couple different things with them with how they work. They either go out on a date, okay, or they're going to go out based on when you add them to the campaign. So if I have a buyer campaign, let's go and take a look at that's fine. Okay, so let's do this one. So this one, if you look, this is a why for a buyer. Why choose Century 21 for this? It's one of 6 different emails that go out. And you can see here that it starts 0 days after start. So when I set this up and I send it out, it's going to go out today. It's going to go out in 2 weeks. It's going to go out in 28 days, 42 days, 56, and then 70 days. So almost 3 months that there's going to be some type of campaign that's going out for you. Okay. Let's just use this one because we had a buyer, right? If I click add and this is what I want, a little green box will pop up here saying that it's ready to go. To set this up, it's very easy. 1, click on the campaign you want to set up. 2, we need to choose the recipient. So click setup and then add recipients. From here, if I just want to set it up for 1 or 2 or 3 people, I can go down and choose on the right-hand side. Right? So I can do it that way. Or I can click add recipients, come over here to groups. So something like the holiday campaign, I want everybody on it. So I'm going to choose everybody. Or this is for a buyer. What if I put this on my buyer group? So once you have decided either group, everybody in your contact list, or just individual ones that you want to put in there, you'll see them pull up here and you're going to hit save. Now for these campaigns, if you're not going to edit when they go out, all right, maybe you decide that you want to change this. I'm not going to go through how to edit a campaign. I don't usually recommend it when it comes out. Like that is what it is. But if you decide you wanted to start changing the schedule of how this stuff goes out, like the holiday campaign, you don't want some of that stuff, that will not update from Century 21, just so you know. So if they make some updates, you will not get it if you break the sync with Century 21. But once you see this blue box up here, I click run. And now my Why Choose a C21 Agent campaign is starting. So that means I am going to get an email here in just a moment on my personal email, since that's what I set it up for. And then this system will tell me if anybody opens it and if they click on it, which is pretty cool. Now, remember, I set this up for a group. This is also a great feature of Moxie. If I come back to my people screen here, and let's say Jimmy, I add him, and I put him in that, but he's a brand new one, and I add him to that group that already has the campaign running, Jimmy is automatically set up on that campaign, and I don't have to do any of the campaign stuff. Automatically set up to what's running in that campaign on day 0. So anybody new that I add to the group, remember the group that I had here, I called it test buyer. Anybody I add to this test buyer group now will automatically be put on the Century 21 Why Choose a Century 21 Agent campaign. Pretty cool. All right. What other questions do we got? Did I answer the campaign stuff from last time? Do we have any extra questions in the chat?
Yeah,
Okay,
Jennifer,
perfect.
can we delete a campaign?
Yes. Okay, so let's do it. There are like a couple different steps you have to do it. So let's go to campaigns. So let's say, oops, I have this running, or maybe you decided at one point when you got into Moxie, you just added every single thing in the library and you're just like, wow, this is too much. So this is how you actually would go in and delete it. You're going to click on the campaign. And then what you're going to do first is you're going to end and archive it, or just archive it, whatever's available for you. If the campaign's already done. All right, so when I end and archive, you're going to see on the right-hand side here, it says archive. So you can see where my campaigns are, okay? So now all I have to do is click on this, and there will be a delete option. So I click delete, and it is campaigns done and gone, and it's out of there. Can you delete one holiday from the campaign? Darby, yes. So I'm going to go into this campaign here. So I can come down here and I can edit this. So let's say, for instance, and this would be my question, because I get this all the time. Well, this is actually for a father that doesn't, the kids don't have a mother. They don't have a mother anymore. I want to take Mother's Day out. I want to take Father's Day out. I don't want these in here. And that's fine. You can do whatever you want. But you probably have people that do have mothers and do have fathers. But if you delete anything from the campaign, and at the end of this year, when Century 21 says, hey, we have now uploaded all of 2026 into this campaign, it will continue to run without having to do anything. If you delete something or change the date of anything, you will break the sync with Century 21. So feel free to go and delete whatever you want. Just put a calendar reminder somewhere to say, hey, I have to start the new one all over again at the beginning of the year. Now, Century 21 did something different this year. They actually have just the holiday 2024 or 2025. But if you've been with Century 21 using Moxie for a while, you'll notice that they had a campaign that went from 2022 all the way through 2024. So if you didn't delete anything when they updated, that was 3 years worth of holiday campaigns that you did not have to go back in and do anything with, because Century 21 automatically updated it. So just keep that in mind if you do decide that you would like to change some of the stuff around. Just keep in mind that that's going to happen. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Any other questions? Or is there anything you would like me to add, Bob, or anything you would like me to show off?
No, you've actually covered everything. Thank you so much. I mean, I put in the chat that for me, when I get new agents coming on board, I always have them sign up for the education.moxieworks site just for the agents to get on their own time to look at those recorded videos and at least get an idea of understanding what the platform looks like before I start working with them one-on-one. So this way, at least I know they know what it looks like, what they can do, capabilities, because there's so many tools that MoxieWorks already has. We just don't direct them that way. The education.moxieworks is ideal for brand new agents to do a quick overview on listing presentation, seller presentation, and then I work with them because they like, oh, so that's what I was watching.
Yep.
So make sure you guys do that. And some of you guys were asking about the trainings. I did put last week's training on the Century 21 Workplace excuse me, Century 21 Facebook global group. And those of you that have not joined need to register for that. There's a Facebook icon on your 21 Online homepage. Connect in there because that's where all the recordings are actually sitting. Once we finish, like this session later on this afternoon, I'll upload it in there. And if there's any documents that Jimmy wants to add, he'll email them to me and I'll attach them right into that training session. So
Yeah, I did add I added a PDF for the DNS settings and a PDF for a generic follow-up list if
got it.
anybody wants to use that. And then I am sending Christine something else. So we got a question. It said, can you let's see. All right, let's answer these two questions. So I have one that says, how do you know if the holiday campaign is working? Click on running campaigns and you'll see if it's working or not. And then let's see, I had one that said, can you add a holiday? So if you want to add a holiday, Jen, by all means, go in and add another holiday, add as many holidays as you want. Just, you got to make the graphics. You can steal them from Brand Studio if you want to. I think one of the Century 21's ideas was there's already a lot of holidays in there and they didn't want to overwhelm too much. So if you want to do that, that's fine, but just keep in mind that will break the sync. And with that breaking the sync, if they make any updates, you will not get them. So just keep that in mind. There's nothing wrong with it. You can add what you'd like and kind of go in there and from there. So, hey, Bob, before we go,
Yes.
I spent some time with my office digging through some of the Moxie numbers and comparing it to how agents are performing. And like how Moxie has those numbers saying, $25,000 more if you use Moxie Present versus not, and then $30,000 more for Engage and stuff. And I'll tell you, so I went through with some of my all my all the offices. And for us last year, we had a really, really good year last year. And last year, the agents that actually used Moxie Present versus the agents that didn't, just in my brokerage, averaged $46,000 more on average commission wise. And then with Moxie Engage, we're about 38,000 more by using that. And then some of my top users have some insane numbers, but like my top 10 are like $192,000 average for the ones that are actually using this stuff. So there's a lot that we went over today. There's a lot to Moxie, like Bob was saying. Pick the pieces that will impact your business the most, allow you to show up better, stay top of mind more, stay more visible, and give some more value to those clients, and the business will come.
Absolutely. Well, and the biggest thing is, you know what, everybody gets excited when there's a new tool, they want to learn it, but at the end of the day, it has to be consistent. Like Jimmy
Yes.
said, and I tell all my agents, you got to learn, you got to log in and use these tools every single day to make it a habit. Because if you're not logging in and you're logging in every 2-3 weeks, it's not going to help you.
You're playing catch up and you're missing some of the, I feel like you're just, if you're going to use it, if you're going to go in and do all this stuff, you got to be consistent. Focus on that again. Maybe not all of it, but focus on the pieces that will allow you to show up better, stay more visible, get in
Yep.
front of more people. So when it's time for them to do something that's real estate related, and that's where all these little nuances with faves and saves and neighborhood news and campaigns and sending out just listed and just sold and all of that stuff. That's where all that stuff kind of comes into play. And we are blessed to be with a brand that is a number one recognized name in real estate. So it doesn't matter what you send. They see C21 or Century 21 and they automatically think of real estate. So you
Right.
already have an up on a lot of people. You just got to get in front of them as much as you can. Laura, you
Absolutely.
said, can you maybe add that one holiday on its own campaign? Um, so we're talking about adding another holiday. Yes,
I
you
think
could. You
it's
could make
asking
your
about
own
creating a
campaign.
campaign just for one event. You would
You could
probably
do
do
an
it on
e-blast.
e-blast.
You could
Yep.
do an e-blast to go out on a date. The only thing is for you to create e-blasts. Century 21 just has the one time, I think. So you might have to get with your broker to make an e-blast that goes out on a date, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So you can do something like that.
Well, I appreciate everybody coming. Jimmy, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And everybody have an amazing day. Like I said, this recording will be on the Century 21 Global Network Facebook group later on this afternoon. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me anytime. And you guys have an amazing week. Thanks, Jimmy.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Y'all have a good one. Thank you. Stay warm, most of you.